because it all seems taken for granted. We aren't like staff from the TU or something. We are also students, just like the rest of you. But we sort of, yeah, we engage and try to organize events such like these. And this is what this next presentation is about. The Fachschaft, or the Student Body Council, would be the translation. Thanks.
Okay, bear with me for a second as I put on this mic. This is probably the wrong way around, but how bad is it for the stream? Like, am I still here? Okay, should I redo it?
It's fine.
Okay. No. Okay, no. I need to read the story. How did this work? How okay. Right. I managed it like just a few hours ago, like an hour ago, but I guess the enchiladas was too much to handle. Okay, so is the slide? Can you show the slides? Okay, so maybe in the meantime, yes, who is behind all this? Who can you direct your criticisms or like your feedback to? It's the Fachschaft in German, or in English it's called the Student Council. And yeah, so there's like half an hour in this slot, but I probably won't take half an hour. It will be a bit shorter. So yeah, feel free to ask questions during during this talk. I almost said lecture, but this is just like a casual, I don't know, like meet and greet. Who are we, and what do we do, and why do we do stuff like this? Why do we do like this Ophase and stuff? Okay, okay. While we get the slides. Yeah, we are so organized. Okay, so okay, I respect your criticism, and I'm told that all criticism needs to be forwarded to Apple because they made this device. Okay, so now that we have the slides, so who are we exactly? Who is the Fachschaft? We have this wonderful diagram here, which should explain this a bit more. So we have all this. We have like this blob of all students at the Fachbereich Informatik, like the computer science department, and this includes you as well. Probably, if you are studying informatic here at this department. And theoretically, according to the legal definition of Fachschaft, this is the Fachschaft. The blue circle is the Fachschaft. But like when we say Fachschaft during, I don't know, like discussions or something like that, we usually don't mean this whole blue circle. We usually mean the active student body, like the like when we say the student council or stuff, we mean actually this green circle. And this is composed of all students that are at our department who are actively engaged in, for example, activities, events, Ophasen, and other councils or committees that we will show later on. And then we have this smaller group here, which is the legal representation of the blue group. It's like a democratically elected student body council, and this is the official representation, and it includes, I think, 9 people or something like that, and in these 9 people, there's me, for example. And yeah, so let's look at this in a more detailed fashion and like in more practical, because this is all very abstract for now. So this photo is also not the newest photo, but this is like a subset of this green blob you saw earlier. So this is just some people who get together and do some stuff, organize some events, etc. And apart from events or Ophasen, we also have these legal duties that we do here at the computer science department. And we do these in so-called committees. So this is kind of boring, but while it's boring, it's also it has a very large impact on your day-to-day studies. So one thing I already showed you was the student body council, this gray blob in the middle. So this is the legal representation of of all students, active students at the computer science department here at TU Darmstadt, and this is mostly a representation because, like, we as the FSR, like the active student body council, we decided a few years ago to just say, like, theoretically we have some kind of power, we have some kind of legal power, but we want to delegate all that power to the weekly student council meetings. I will go into that later on. Then there is kind of the most important committee here at the computer science department, which is the faculty council. This is composed of students, some students, and some professors, some WIMIs, so wissenschaftliche MitarbeiterInnen, and some I don't know what the German word, what the English word is, but administrativ-technische Mitarbeiter. This council decides the high-level direction our computer science department goes into. Like, for one, it kind of has like the overarching, like I don't know, it's probably not like a veto power, but it has like the highest amount of power at our council, at our faculty, and yeah. So this is a very important committee here and has a lot of power, and we need to have students into this so that our voice can be heard. So like this student body council, nice to have, but the actual power we have is through this FBR. Like we don't have a veto power, we don't have a majority in this council, but we still have the power to influence and guide decisions there. And beside this large or like this powerful FBR, we have some subcommittees which have powers that are more focused, or like I shouldn't say power like a lot, but like responsibility that's more focused on specific areas of our department. So one is the teaching and study committee. This committee, for example, gets feedback from students or lecturers on some lectures, like if there is a problem with the lecturers, or like I don't know, in general feedback, they will receive this and collect them. Of course, or like it will be anonymous if the person who gives the feedback decides to do that anonymously. It will be collected anonymously and then collected, and this feedback will then be discussed with the lecturer in person. So like so that changes can be really done to improve teaching and studying. Then there is a committee called LENA, which stands for Lehre neu aufstellen. So an approximate English translation would be teaching reorganization, which doesn't really describe the task of this committee really well, because what this committee does is allocate funds. So some lecturers, for example, want to improve their lecture course and, for example, need some Hiwi-Stellen, so some wissenschaftliche Hilfskräfte, or like tutors for the exercises, for example. And if they want to have this, they need to have the money to kind of finance this. And if they don't have the money themselves through grants or something like that, they can apply for this money using the Lehre neu aufstellen funds. And Lehre neu aufstellen then says, okay, is this really a valid reason for you to get money? If you like, okay, let's say you want some funds to buy some, I don't know, lab equipment, which is maybe very expensive, for example, like some oscilloscopes or something like that. Okay, maybe that's fine. But do you really need this Porsche for the I don't know. Okay, and lastly, we also have the appeal committees, which also kind of deal with some feedback and some general processes within this department. And I think the most important thing to take away from this slide is that in every one of these 3 committees, which are in our department, we have representation. Like the students are represented in these committees, not as a majority, of course. The professors also don't have like a real majority there, but we still have a representation there, and we still have, we can still voice our opinions there. And this is really important, that we don't kind of lose this and keep our interests in mind when going into the future of this Fachbereich. Yeah. Yes. So yeah, so these committees, for example, for Lehre neu aufstellen, I don't know if some professor wants money for something, they send in like an application for this, and this is first discussed within this committee, and also discussed within like the student council if like there's a need for discussion, and then there is a vote on this, and like the more people we have there, like, I don't know, if we don't appear for the vote, then we wasted our vote, but yeah. Okay, so this is the kind of boring stuff, but still I think the even more important stuff, because this really affects our day-to-day studying here at TU Darmstadt. Apart from this, we also organize events. So, for one, we have the GNOME, so-called. It stands for Games No Machines, and it's basically a board game night. So we have a really, really large repository of board games in the so-called Glaskasten in the LZE, where you also have the breakfast. And I don't know the exact schedule of this. I think it's every month. It should be scheduled, and so every month, basically one evening every month, the LZE gets turned into a game night, so a social event where you can play games with other people that just happen to also be interested in this event. Apart from that, we also have the Nikolausfeier. So I think this is this is also almost like 2 years old, or like 2 years old already. Yeah, so in every winter semester we have like a Nikolausfeier, where we have, in this case, we had waffles, fresh waffles, and Glühwein, so mulled wine, and other food and drink, and of course a relaxed atmosphere where all members of the faculty are invited, so often professors and other members also go regularly to these events. We also have the Sommerfest, which is probably more interesting for this semester in particular. So I don't know if there's a final date yet, but for example, 2 years ago it was in June. And this is also kind of the analog to the Nikolausfeier. We also have not waffles, but this time, that time we had hamburger, hot dogs. And live music, for example, here, and yeah, just also a nice place where professors, in this case Professor Gachachiladze, coming there and yeah, getting to meet students, and yeah, just a casual yeah, Sommerfest. We also have the Ophase. This is not as relevant. This is more relevant to the bachelor students, as this is like kind of like the extension, can be as thought as an extension of the Ophase, where in April, so this is coming up in a few weeks, like next week actually, where some bachelor students have a like a weekend on this castle here, and they have some workshops and I don't know, karaoke and like just getting to know each other and yeah. We also have a this is the one thing that is actually recent here from the events. We have parties like informatic parties, and this one in particular is going to be next month, so on the 10th of May, and it's going to be at the Goldene Krone, where you probably also a station which you will probably also have in the bar tour this evening. So you have like this is also an event that's kind of almost every semester. So once for the winter Ophase, and this time also like kind of for the summer Ophase here. And in this event we have like, yeah, I don't know. It's like it's dancing. Like we have one floor with mainstream music and one floor with techno. So if you're into that, then there you have that. And yeah, I think these events are like they are a core component that is exists parallel to these kind of what I describe as boring but very impactful stuff we saw earlier in the committees. And I think both of these things are areas which are in dire need of, not dire need, but they need always are searching for people who want to participate and make these events even better, or like continued on the spirit of like doing these events and keeping the I don't know, keeping the lecturers in check or something like that. We also have student council meetings every Wednesday at 6 p.m. Oh, I also forgot to remove this. It's every Wednesday at 6 p.m. There's no exception anymore. So it's we had a short period where it was on Tuesday, but that's not anymore. You can come visit us in B002. That's like if you go downstairs to the basement and into the direction of the LZE, then it will be on the right side. So just the room number B002. And we also stream all the meetings online via a big blue button. It's like an open source version of Zoom, which we host here on premises. And the link for the big blue button is available on our website, together with the schedule for the meetings and where you can find us. And for the event specifically, we have a mailing list and some other channels where we advertise spots where you can help us during events, for example, the Nikolausfeier or the Ophase or the Sommerfest or the party also. And there's like some small slots. And for example, if you want to make some hot dogs or cook some mulled wine, that's exactly what that is for. And of course, you can just visit us in D120 and just chat. Come chat with us if the door is open, which it is most of the time, when there's someone inside, and just chat, I don't know, about anything, about the studies, about if you have feedback for some specific lecture, if you have some questions, anything. We are, if you are there, then we are always there to help. And maybe something that is also like, apart from these committees, like also some boring stuff we do is the evaluation of the lectures. So normally, if you talk to other departments here at TU Darmstadt, they only evaluate every 3 semesters. Or if you want to evaluate more often than every 3 semesters, you have to pay. Like you have to pay the another department at the TU Darmstadt, bureaucracy. And we instead do this organize this from the student council. So we have a sub-department, like kind of subgroup in our computer science department, not computer science, in our student council, where we organize the evaluation of the lectures. And yeah, this way we are able to make the evaluation possible every semester, which is also a task that is not that hard, but also very useful to you, the students. So, like I said, boring stuff, but very impactful. Yeah, you can also find us on social media. We have a Discord server, we are on Mastodon, and we are also on Instagram. All these links also can also be found on our website, and we regularly post updates regarding like some computer science department specific news, or like announcement for events, and for example Ophase we also announced there. Yeah. So, yeah, so in conclusion, I hope I gave a pretty good small overview of what we do as a student council, what our job is, like what we do and why we do this. And maybe a last small point is that we always are searching for new members, and I also like do this advertising for the bachelor students, but in their Ophase. But for them, it's like not really that relevant because they're just at the beginning of their studies. It's not really the optimal time to be thinking about like joining the Fachschaft, or like supporting some events, or like taking on some responsibilities. But here in the master Ophase, I think it's a bit more relevant. So do keep in mind that like these events, like the Ophase and these like Nikolausfeier and Sommerfest, and all these stuff that happens behind the scenes, so these committee meetings, this keeping lecturers in check, this evaluation of the lecturers and stuff, this all happens behind the scenes, and we kind of take this for granted, but there is real work that needs to go into this. And yeah, so this blob I showed you earlier, this blue blob, can only work really well when we have an active green blob and gray blob that works to really represent this blue blob and their interests. Because this blue blob, it's hard to believe, but it is legally a democratic structure we have here. We have elections, university elections every 2 semesters, where we elect new people into the student body, like this FSR and FBR, these really important people who will represent us. And this democratic structure can only work when we have real engagement from the voter base. I don't know, like from everyone who is interested and capable of putting their time into this. And yeah, people leave are finishing the studies all the time, and we always need like new people who are willing to take up this work. So yeah, if you have the capabilities and the time, please do consider this, because yeah, it's important. Yeah, thanks. Are there any questions? Okay, then I guess we'll get to the next point, which will be also by Tim Neubacher again.
So, thank you very much, Joachim. Next up is the intercultural talk from Tim, but beforehand that, Eva will tell you something about our new mentoring system, Compass, for foreign students.
going away? Is that bad? Okay. Come in, take a seat. Good. Okay, very welcome from me as well. I'm doing this for the very first time, so please bear with me. I'm doing my best. So, I'm not the intercultural talk, that's done by Tim, but I've stolen like 10 minutes from him because something first, we have a very new thing here at the department, it's called Compass. But before we talk about Compass, I would like to ask you to take out your tablets or smartphones and we do a very, very, very short poll. It's like 2 questions. So, do we have it? Anyone problems with it? Okay. So the very first question is, in which country have you completed your undergraduate studies? Bachelor's or equivalent? Okay. Mongolia, interesting. Jordania, Morocco. CN, China? Rwanda, very interesting. Poland, United Kingdom, Hong Kong. Okay, thanks a lot. So we have quite a varied community here. I'm very happy to see that. Next question is, so, if you have not completed your undergraduate studies in Germany and if you are enrolled in one of those 3 study programs, computer science, artificial intelligence or IT security, have you been already contacted by the Master Plus mentors? And one thing, I'm sorry, this program is in German, so ja is yes, nein is no. Just the obvious. Okay, so quite a few haven't been contacted, so all of the no's are not from Germany. That's interesting, we come back later to this. Okay, could you change back? Okay, so thank you for the participation. It was already quite interesting for us. So what is Compass then? Compass, that's basically our mentors. 4 of them are here on the picture. That's Belal, here with us today. Tanas couldn't be here today, sadly, but Erfan is here. Happy to introduce you. Fasilat and Hatice, which is sadly not on the picture. So those are our mentors in our program, computer science peer assistance and student support. And actually it's quite new, this is the first semester to do it, a new mentoring program for our international students, and it's only for the English taught master's programs, so computer science, artificial intelligence and IT security. And our aim in this mentoring program is to provide support for you for a very smooth transition into your new study program here. And that's what our mentors are here for you as contact persons. So you know how to contact with all your questions, to ask them. They are international students as well. You're from Iran, Syria. So they have all been sitting here like you, coming to a new country, coming to a new university. They have made the same experiences, so they can help you with their experiences. So, and like I've said, it's really new. It's actually a pilot project at the moment, and it's still in development. So many things I'm telling you today, and it's really short, it's like 2 more slides maybe. It's all work in progress. Currently, our mentors should have contacted you via email. if they have not contacted you, then I ask you to contact me. I will give you my contacts in the last slide, and I will forward you to our mentors, and so you can have your first contact with them. And we have planned some social activities with you just to get to know Darmstadt for you and to meet other students. And in the future, we plan to have like a weekly help desk, both in person or digitally. And we will, of course, have a website, which is not ready yet. We will meet right afterwards to plan our website. We will have a central email address, and it's just developing over the semester. So that's me, Eva. And here you can find my contact details. So if you're an international student and have not yet been contacted by our mentors, please contact me so I can forward you to our mentors. Am I in? Okay. So we can scan the code. Okay, that's actually it for now from our mentoring program. Do you have any questions or remarks? No? Then, back to the intercultural talk. Yes.
Check. Okay. All right. Thanks, Eva. Thanks, Erfan. Thanks, Belal. Get away. Run. Otherwise, I will use you for my intercultural talk. Was für ein Klicker? Ja. Wir haben alle Presenter. Wir sind sau cool. Du bist nur cool, wenn du Presenter hast. All right. So then. Let's start with intercultural talk. Why an intercultural talk? Well, essentially because a lot of different cultures are meeting when joining a different program, a different country, different university as well. In Germany, probably a different federal state. Let's be honest. It might be quite a cultural shock if you're stemming from Bavaria or the other way around, right? So, intercultural talk. This is a very important part, actually, where you can benefit a lot if you use it in the right way. So let's start with a bit more seriously the question, what is culture at all? Well, essentially everything. Civilization, code of conduct, do's and don'ts, but also your identity as well. For example, similarities, sayings, religion, history, and so on and so forth. It's quite loud, the microphone, right? Isn't it? There's some kind of echo. Okay, yeah. Oh, no, a bit improved. Anyhow, I just ignored. I can't hear that well today anyway. So, okay. So everything, essentially everything is culture. Okay, cool. And there's a drawback, because like the picture on the right side addresses, only very few parts are directly visible. Most part of culture is hidden, subconscious somewhat, right? Cultural aspects, for example. And what you can see, of course, specific music, storytelling, visual art, something like that. Check, 1, okay, better. No, even worse. Probably it's the box. Anyhow. Theoretical University of Darmstadt. So as you can see, some bullet points here, like friendship, emotions, and whatever, are usually not directly visible, right? But an important part and the underlying part of the overall culture, you get to learn if you move around, if you meet someone else, whatever. And of course, as I introduced, like for example, if you're located in the federal state of Hesse and you commute your first time to Bavaria, there might be something like a cultural shock. What's a cultural shock? Well, a cultural shock is essentially a reaction to something that seems to be a bit astonishing or strange or funny or something like that. So at least some kind of way. So it's not really a shock in the common sense of the word. It's more a surprising thing that happens. Has any one of you experienced cultural shocks? Which one? How direct Germans can be, well, yes. Because everything else is not polite. Because you probably couldn't understand. Same reason why Germans tend to speak directly English if you struggle a bit with German. Usually it's meant to be helpful. No. Depending on the area where you are located in Germany, it might be a bit hard to understand the English then. How to deal with cultural shocks, right? That's the interesting question, because you will always encounter cultural shocks. Something like that. Another quite easy example, mid of night, no car on the street. On the street? Okay, wait. Here, 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 here. Huh. Here. All right. You have to deal with the sound of the recording. So, same as me. So anyhow, for example, no car on the street, mid of night, dark, whatever. Traffic light for pedestrians. It's red. Germans approach the traffic light and just stop. Usually, you would just go across the street because there's fucking no car around. But Germans love to obey rules. We will get back to that a bit later during the slides. So anyhow, so how to deal with it? Well, the best way is to dive deep into the different culture and try to gather understanding. Why are they acting that way, right? Get to know locals. Ask them. Why are you so strange? Probably with different wording, right? Why does it feel so strange for me how you act? Might be the better question. Anyway, be aware of your own culture. Diving into different culture doesn't necessarily mean that you will lose your own culture. That would be totally wrong. But you can benefit from a different culture if you dive deep into this very specific aspect of joining a different country, university, whatever. This try to find out is somewhat difficult, because sometimes you may think, I encounter that quite often, and I think there might be something behind, but it's such a strange behavior that I don't want to ask. Ask your fellow students. Or ask me in the Students' Council, Student Advisory. That's fine. I'm quite honest if you keep asking me questions, which is sometimes embarrassing people. That's how I am. Try to embrace a different perspective. And most of all, reflect your own emotions. It might be strange for you, or embarrassing for you, or whatever, but that doesn't necessarily mean that it has to be the way for the others, right? So it might be your own culture getting in conflict there. There's a famous saying from Anish Nain, an author, we don't see the world as it is, we see it as we are. In humanities and social sciences, there's nothing like being objective. That doesn't exist anymore. The best you can reach is intersubjectiveness. So you can try to be as objective as possible, but it will always be you observing the reality, right? And that's very interesting, because essentially most of the things related to culture will rely on you personally. So you can get around with the situation if you somehow, it's so annoying. Again, whatever. So, now, having created the right mindset, let's dive a bit into some common topics of cultural differences, intercultural context. Universities in Germany. We do have several students from different countries, as we have seen at the beginning of this talk. And university systems are completely different to each other, with some aspects at least. For example, how to prepare for an achievement, how many achievements there are during a term, how many terms there are, whether you pay for your studies or not. Just an example, in countries like UK, US or whatsoever, or Southeastern Asia sometimes, where you have to pay a lot of money to study, they can of course afford more people to help you. 2 student advisors, one for bachelor's, one for master's, 4,500 enrolled students in our department. So the positive side, you don't have to pay high fees. The negative side, you will wait way longer for your answer. That's just one difference. So mainly not private, public universities and University of Applied Sciences. No high fees usually whatsoever, but therefore also quite crowded from time to time. No high fees, but of course, depending on the respective university or University of Applied Science, fees or contribution you have to pay for public transportation or whatsoever, right? As I mentioned earlier, the freedom of teaching and research. Or to translate that, unreliable. That's essentially the outcome. Because we can't interfere with our professors, whatever they do, and they are doing random stuff. Changing language of instructions, course offers, whatsoever. On the other hand, they can research on whatever they want to research on, as long as they can fund the research, of course. And therefore, it's not that well structured, but probably you will find some very interesting minor topics where research is going on, where you can conduct your thesis or a lab or something like that, right? So more possibilities, not as well structured probably. And as Joachim told you before, strong participation of the students, like in the ASTA, in the Students' Council, in the boards, whatever, right? And at least in our department, we tend to listen to our students. I can't guarantee that for all other departments. Essentially, yes. But we are quite in contact with our students. So, most likely on first name base, at least in the dean's office, short ways. If you have any issue, just let us know and we will try to solve it. It's not always possible, but we will at least try. There are some other differences as well. For example, you have to be very self-autonomous. And the universities are sometimes autonomous as well. So for example, TU Darmstadt and the University in Frankfurt are autonomous universities in the federal state of Hesse. We can manage our own money. I mean, we don't have any, but we could, right? Also, our buildings. So we are the ones who decide whether we can build something or not if we have the money, which we don't, but we could. Not every university, though, is autonomous. The autonomy is also really, really important for you as a student. There is not really much structure in the elective courses. Compared to some other countries where you just have to submit several things throughout the term and then pass the course, here you essentially have to prepare on your own for the one exam happening, counting 100%. And it's up to you to create your time schedule, your learning process, and whatever. If you need help, ask the international mentors, the student advisory, or whatever. But you need to get yourself help. That's really important, right? In paid systems, you're somewhat customers. Here you're just students. No all-round service. So gather information and ask. There are dumb questions. Definitely. So there's the German saying, es gibt keine dummen Fragen. There are no dumb questions. There are totally stupid questions. Definitely. But it's fine to ask them. That's completely okay, right? Because probably you don't even know whether it's a stupid question or not. Ask. I will usually be polite. Or I will make fun out of you. All right. So university. One difference probably you have to get used to, right? That's one of the reasons why we recommend to start slowly. Just go easy. Probably take a few less credits than you actually plan to, just to get into the system faster, because that's really helpful for the graduation and the following semesters as well. Accommodations. Besides Darmstadt being one of the hardest cities to find accommodation at all, probably, and it's way too expensive for the shitholes you can rent, as I have been told. There are different types of accommodations, quite common for students in Germany. I'd say probably in order of availability and cases. Shared flats, Wohngemeinschaft, living, whatever, it's hard to translate. Shared flats. Studio apartments, also in the dormitories. And then a private apartment if you can afford it. Anyone? I think the average square meter price, cold, I will get back to that a bit more detailed later on, is like 14-15 euros per square meter to rent. Somewhat relatable to Munich, Frankfurt, and so on. That's because. Just because. It's just because. Because real estate agents also want to earn money or something. I don't know. When I started studying here, I paid 190 euros per month, warm rental, shared flat, 5 minutes from here, 110 square meters whole flat, shared flat, 720 euros warm. The deal with the landlord was, if something happens, we're dealing with that on our own, renovating, new kitchen, whatsoever, and he's not touching the rent. And it worked out for almost 13 years. And then way younger students joined us in the shared flat, and they wanted to have something like a heater in the kitchen and the bathroom. I was fine with the icicles. All right. But essentially you need some kind of place to stay. Hopefully you will find some. What are the typical ways to find accommodation? Well, of course you can try to get into one of the dormitories, not managed by the university, another difference, right? The Studierendenwerk is responsible, long waiting lists, or they are owned privately. You have to apply. I think with the Studierendenwerk, the last time I checked, they had a 2-year waiting list. So if you manage to finalize the degree in the regular study period, you will get a room in the dormitory as soon as you're done. But hey, on the other hand, it's cool to be on such a list, right? Private market, not so much real estate agents anymore because there was a change of law. They're still using that, but several landlords tend to now go on their own instead of real estate agents because they take money and the landlords have to pay the money nowadays, officially. Most likely we'll still use real estate agents from time to time, and you have to pay more rent, actually. Hey, welcome to capitalism. Oh, my solutions for peace in the world. Reduce neocapitalism, more education. Works out for almost every issue in the world. We have an issue with X, either it's reduce capitalism or more education. Prove me wrong at some time. I can argue on that ages and ages if you want to. Anyhow, there are several things you should look out for in your contract. Is it an unlimited contract or a limited one? My sister, when she switched from the university in Heidelberg to the University of Applied Science here in Darmstadt, signed a contract without chatting it too detailed, let's say. And afterwards she learned that she rented this accommodation for 3 months. That's it. And it was not possible to extend the contract or whatever, and she was like, oh, damn. Was a nice apartment though, quite expensive. So it was a good thing that she was actually able to move somewhere else after 3 months. Is there an automatic renewal of the contract included, for example, or do you have to ask your landlord for the same? is there something like an annual rent increase? Which shouldn't happen, but sometimes landlords tend to just get more money and forget about legal base. So check that. How do you pay actually, right? Is there some kind of deposit, which is quite common? Is it a monthly payment? I actually learned from another student years ago, he signed a contract in Darmstadt, yearly payment. So let's just assume you have something like, I don't know, 1,000 euros per month, which is not easy to afford for students in average. And the landlord suddenly drops by, okay, I need the 12,000 euros by next Monday. So, have an eye on the details. If you're in doubt, let someone who's more used to it, a German fellow student, cross-check it probably, right? Or the legal advisory from the students, from the AStA or something, right? Because it's not always easy to grasp the details. And then of course the rent is split into different parts. There's the overall rent, so-called Warmmiete. Because if it's not my old shared flat, usually every room is somewhat warm. There's the so-called cold rental, Kaltmiete. And there are additional costs like property, taxes, water, sometimes gas, electricity is included, sometimes you have to deal with that on your own, and so on. A lot of differences. Quite complicated from time to time, but also something where you can dive deep into and learn a lot, which is not of use at all as soon as you leave Germany. But hey, at least you learn something interesting, right? And then, depending on your accommodation, there are specific situations, rules, also legal base rules or common rules and whatsoever. So for example, the laundry is often done in the basement. There are washing machines, dryers and something. Sometimes it's actually forbidden to put up a washing machine or a dryer in your flat. Sometimes your clothes will never get dry because it's in the cellar and it's quite wet and whatever. But hey, bicycles. Some landlords forbid you to park your bicycles in your own flat. Whatsoever. And you have to park it outside, in a garage, or in the basement as well, and whatever. If you have a specific room in the basement, and you want to put your bike there, or some probably expensive stuff, a locker might be a good idea. A good one. Or tell me where you live, as an alternative. I'll take care of your stuff. Pets. In general, you need the permission of your landlord to have a pet, regardless of the size. I mean, one could easily understand if you want to have a giraffe or an elephant, but also mice or something. In general, you have to ask the landlord. And sometimes landlords are really strange. Where I live now, he is accepting cats, but he's forbidding us dogs. And the argument was, dogs destroy the flat way more than cats do. My family owned both. I think he personally hates dogs. His decision, we don't have the time for a pet anyway, so not an issue for us, but it was interesting to read in the contract. Specific thing, if there's a damage of your gas lines, the gas system, water, electric lines, or whatever, directly inform your landlord and let them deal with the situation. Don't do anything on your own or hire your own electrician or whatsoever. It's their responsibility and they have to afford the cost, right? They will tell you otherwise, don't believe them. And of course, as Germans tend to obey rules a lot, and we are so polite to each other, avoid loud noises, specifically in the night, and the whole Holy Sunday through. Because everyone's so fucking Christian here in Germany. Oh, and for every international student, try to buy some groceries on Sunday. Almost everything is closed on Sunday. There are a few exceptions. And on public holidays as well. Friday, next Monday, Sunday. So you should probably prepare your groceries today or tomorrow for the next few days. Otherwise, we do have a lot of things like Dönerläden, which is really amazing to eat, actually. Anyhow, so this actually differs from time to time. So sometimes it's 1 p.m. to 3 p.m., sometimes it's 12 p.m. to 3 p.m., sometimes it's till 4 p.m. or whatever. There are usually sheets of paper somewhere in your house with specific rules. Hausordnung. We will get back to German words later on as well. That's a lovely word, Hausordnung. It means that's the order for your house. Stick to it, or get removed. Or discuss the matter with your shared people in the house, and probably you can still have a party in the night and whatever, but it comes down to communication. In Germany you have very strong rules, but in a lot of cases it's all about communicating to the others whether there is a possibility to make exceptions or something. In student-friendly cities like Darmstadt, it's quite often possible. If you move to the countryside, not so much. You will encounter a lot of very observative people on the countrysides. The same trouser like yesterday. Probably something wrong with them. I love those people. Another very interesting thing in Germany, the medical system, of course. If you ask Germans, they will most likely tell you it's not really working anymore. We personally think that's essentially half true. On the other hand, I've been in countries without any health insurance system, so greeting to the fellow people in the US. It's mandatory in Germany. And it's not communism. I keep my rents with me at the moment. So anyways, we do have a mandatory health insurance system. Also for the international students. If you have a European health insurance that is accepted in Germany, you can use that. Otherwise you need the specific one, usually from TK, right? Techniker Krankenkasse. Try to figure out where the name stems from. Just do. I won't explain it here, but just look it up. We have above 900 different health insurance agencies in Germany. Because we can. Sometimes health insurance is done by the company. And you have a lot of very local and small health insurance agencies, usually bound to some bigger one, right? And above 900, as far as I know, at least. What do they cover? Well, basic hospital care, registered doctor care, basic dental care, usually. But if you need something special, you can either get some extra insurance, or probably you have to pay for it. General practitioners. What are general practitioners? We do have a very interesting system in Germany. There are the so-called Hausärzte, because in ancient times, so in the 90s, when I was a bit younger, they actually tended to see you at home if you're ill. Not so much today anymore. They get paid, roughly in average, depending on the specific doctor's type, roughly 5 minutes for your treatment by the health insurance agency. Everything else they have to work on their own. 5 minutes in average, regardless what you actually have as a problem. So they don't have time to see you at home if not 100% necessary. But that's where the name stems from, Hausärzte. We do as well have, of course, a lot of specialists, cardiology, for example, dermatology, whatever. In order to see one of those specialist doctors, you first of all need to be at your general practitioner and get some transfer certificate, Überweisung. Was heißt Überweisung? Überweisung? Ja, das ist, ja. I'm not really sure whether there's a good English translation at all for Überweisung. Was? Referon. Your Hausarzt will explain that to you, because they all are speaking English quite well. Okay. There are some exceptions though, but in general you need to first see your general practitioner in order to be allowed to see a specialist doctor, and then you can wait for ages for an appointment. If it's really an emergency, go to either the ER, right, so emergency in a hospital, and sometimes there are the, how's it called? Thank you, Ärztlicher Bereitschaftsdienst. For every non-German speaker, just memorize it. It's actually doctors on hold. Bereitschaftsdienst. Interesting. And of course, if it's really an emergency and you can't commute to a hospital or whatever, call one of the given emergency numbers, 110 police, 112 firework. That would be cool. The fire station, police station, but also emergency doctors dropping by then. If it's not really an emergency, you call them, it's quite costly. A friend of mine learned that. He got beaten up in a disco. Someone else called the 112. Not only the ambulance, but also this very specific doctor dropped by. And the next day, he got actually a bill of roughly 1,000 euros. So make sure it's an emergency. Probably rather die. No. Definitely not. Please don't. Please. Stay alive, thanks. All right, and always have your Krankenversicherungskarte with you. Really important. Krankenversicherungskarte, memorize it. All together, no. That's the small card from your health insurance agency. Because it may happen if you just drop by at random doctor. Yeah, sure, we do have an appointment. Can I have your Krankenversicherungskarte? Oh, I don't have it with me, I'll go back. Nah. We don't want you here without your Krankenversicherungskarte. So, that's really important if you want to see a doctor. If any of the German has any statements to add, just please do. Because we're getting in touch with each other, sharing thoughts about cultural differences, right? So if you have some interesting or funny facts, just let us know. Back to German culture. Stereotypes. Stereotypes. A lot of people tend to say stereotypes are somewhat lies. Nah, that's not really true. Stereotypes are usually half true. There is something behind why there is the stereotype given at all. And probably one of the most common stereotypes about Germans, German love roots, organizations and structures. We do have almost laws for everything. And we like to obey them. If you have a look into the history, you might get this impression. On the other hand, if you have a look into current music, it's somewhat march music the whole time through. Very structured and whatever, so yeah, probably there is something in for the Germans. And that's my example, crossing the street as a pedestrian red light and whatever, specifically if there are children around. Even though a complete punk like me would just cross the street, if there's a small child around, I just wait. Because I don't want to be a bad example. And this kid could die, probably. Garbage disposal. We do have a lot of different garbage bins. And to make it more fun, the colors change. Not even in the different quarters in Darmstadt, it's the same color for the same type of trash. this is something you may learn finally when you graduate. I sometimes don't take it right. So anyhow, but we do usually have something like plastics and specific forms of metals. Not every plastic and not every metal is allowed to throw into that bin. Only very specific ones. Test them with a chemistry kit before you do that. Paper, organic waste, and general garbage. If you can't identify whether it's allowed to throw it in the plastic bin, throw it in the general bin. Because it's essentially allowed to throw everything in that. Besides something like batteries or specific other types of trash. There are specific disposal sites for the same, as well as glass, for example, and so on. And to just make it even more strange, we do have something, Ordnungsamt, literally translated to Office of Order. So far, I have not encountered something similar in any foreign country I've ever been. This is a very specific, it's not a police unit, but they are way harsher than any police could be. Specifically if you throw something away like a cigarette or something. Quite costly nowadays. In Mannheim, I think 80 euros if they catch you. But putting up ashtrays, nah, not so much. I usually drag them around in my bag, actually somewhere, till I find a trash bin to get rid of them. Office of Order. That's so cool. Garbage. As I said. So, where I live, yellow for plastic and metal, green for paper. I know that some Germans may disagree. Brown, organic disposal, grey, everything else. There are days I can actually ask the city to fetch large trash, like furniture, for example, and other things like that, and electrical trash as well, like a washing machine or something like that, and smaller parts. It's free, I think, once every few months or once a year or something. You can call them, they will usually adjust an appointment where others are actually in your area around are also collecting something or providing something. If you live in the inner city of Darmstadt, specifically somewhat near the Rhönring, you can essentially also just put it down at the street and just wait till the next morning. There is still a lot of trash, but not yours. And yours is gone. Worked for 13 years. We've not called them once. So old furniture, just putting it on the streets. Next day, a refrigerator was there. That's not even the same type of trash. Nah. The colors may differ. What's green where you live? Blue. Paper's blue. Makes sense. All right, sometimes, as I said, there are disposal sites. Bigger ones, if you have specific trash or whatever, but also for clothes and shoes, for example. It's not allowed, since the beginning of this year, to throw away clothes and shoes in the general garbage. Change of law. Most Germans didn't know, right? Was seid ihr für Deutsche? So. There are specific disposal sites. As they changed the law in January or February, I was trying to get rid of some old clothes we gathered since years. I drove to the next location, completely overcrowded, a lot of bags on the street already and whatever. Damn. Drove to the next disposal site, same situation. I had to actually steer to 4 of them until I was actually able to get rid of my old clothes. Probably prepare a long hike. Glass. Glass is really cool. Of course, be silent in the night, on Sundays and whatever. There are usually times where you can put glass in the containers. Usually, 3 types of glass announced there. Brown, white, and green. There are blue bottles. Do you know that? Or it's just an educated guess? It's green one. But it's interesting because always at the first time when an international student stands in front of these glasses and there's was heißt Sekt auf Englisch? Both is semantically wrong, but okay, let's stick with sparkling wine. Yeah. It's wow. Okay. Anyhow, and I encountered that once or twice already, and then with the blue bottle, we're like. Usually, there's a small general garbage bin directly besides, and we're all like. There are several reels and short videos and whatever of specifically US Americans, for example, or English people encountering such cultural differences. I can laugh my ass off. Just watch them. You will encounter way more funny and strange things than I can ever tell you in such a talk, right? That's really nice. Another stereotype, Germans are punctual. Yes, well, yes, in general. There is the famous German saying, better to be early than too late. I personally really hate to be late, but that's a very personal thing actually. But in general, yes, it's still the case. Punctuality is somewhat a sign of respect as well. In university, years ago, there was this so-called academic quarter. So when a lecture was announced at 2 p.m., it started at 2:15 because the professor had time, 15 minutes, to drop by belated and still be on time. Not existing anymore. It's on time now, right? It should be on time now. On the same line of thought, train and bus schedules are given in exact minutes. Not roughly at 2 p.m., but 2:04. And yet people still, whatsoever, expect the buses and trains to be on time. If you ever encounter a situation that a train, specifically a train at a big train station like Frankfurt or whatever, is really on time, have a look into the astonished faces of the Germans. Is this the earlier train? That's my train. Really? It won't leave on time. It's fine, just relax. Why are trains running late? Actually, just last semester, a Swiss guy was joining us. I was telling something like that. Usually I was telling something like, if you ever manage to ride trains in Switzerland, completely different, everything on time. And he was like, nah, I disagree. It's not that good with us anymore. But on the other hand, they forbid German trains into their local train system because the German trains are causing so much delay. The post buses, though, in Switzerland, we were hiking in the middle of nowhere. There was a bus stop sign. Arrival in exact minutes. I would have expected seconds, but okay. Minutes. We were like, yeah, okay, let's wait. Perfectly on time. And this bus drove us like, 20 kilometers across the countryside. Every single stop perfectly on time. So, if you just want to encounter something like that, just go to Switzerland and drive with the buses. Anyhow, one explanation why trains are running late in Germany. They assume getting in and out of a train, regardless of the size of the train or the train station, takes exactly 1 minute. That's how they plan their schedule. A doctorate candidate, and then finally a doctor, postdoc, decades ago, in the group of Carsten Weihe, algorithms, did his doctorate on optimization methods to automatically optimize the train schedule in Germany. Using his developed optimization technique would have actually led, at that time, to 50% and more less running late. They never ever used that. So essentially they probably don't want their trains to run on time. The new goal defined by the German Train Association last year, at least 50% of the trains should be on time in 2025 or 6 or something. They actually left the final year open. So don't expect any train or bus to run on time, but sometimes they're so late that the next one is actually already getting into the train station. So, coming back to insurance. Germans are well insured. Yes, yes we are. That's not a stereotype, that's just truth. Personal liability, household, legal insurance, life insurance, travel insurance, pet insurance, extra insurance for the dental care of your pet, or whatever, unemployment insurance and whatsoever. Name it, we can insure it. That's a promise. There are some mandatory ones, and there are some really important ones. Haftpflichtversicherung, for example. Because if you by accident break something from someone else, the insurance is covering the costs. Otherwise, you have to pay that on your own. And this specific insurance is not really expensive for a year. So that's really important. If you don't own a pet, probably don't get a pet insurance. If you have a very expensive bike, it might make sense to get a bike insurance, specifically a bike theft insurance, because there's a difference. We do have a little problem with stolen bikes in Darmstadt. One day, we again went to the Krone. I didn't study much in my first few years of studying, actually. When we went out again, the bike of my flat member was stolen. It was not a really expensive bike, so it was like, ah, damn. Okay, let's head home. A few weeks later, his bike appeared at our house, at home. And we don't know why. It just vanished and appeared again. So probably, if you get a bike stolen, just wait a bit. I also learned how these e-scooters actually, how they reproduce. A few months ago, I looked out of the window at home, and there was one of these e-scooters on the pedestrian. E-scooter. A few hours later, 2 of them, a bit away from each other. Okay. Again, a few hours later, I watched out of the window again, looked out the window again, standing close to each other. Okay. The next day, 3 e-scooters. That's probably what your bike is doing when it gets stolen at night, heading to other bikes, producing mini bikes. I don't know. If you can't explain it, just make a random explanation on your own and have some fun. Now, back to the German language. German is an ugly language. I highly disagree. So first of all, you can create almost an infinite word by just adding more nouns. Like this word is actually not existing anymore. They changed the name of the law, and it's now more complicated but shorter. But I was and is still in the official German language in the dictionary. You can throw that word into DeepL and it actually translated semantically correct. I tried that on Monday, I was like, yes! On the other hand, Eierschalen-Sollbruchstellenverursacher was translated to eggshell breaker. If you ever encounter an Eierschalen-Sollbruchstellenverursacher, just buy it. It's a good takeaway for your relatives at home. You put it on top of a boiled egg, there's a small bow. Do you get a drop? And then you should have a circle where you can just open the axle. It's never working out. That's a nice gift. Eierschein Sollbruchstellenverursacher. To translate that, and that's quite easy actually, you have to read it from right to left. So, it's a law. It's actually a transfer law. This is a task. So it seems to be a transfer law for some task. Überwachung. Surveillance, whatever. Okay. Observing, surveillance. So, it's a law, transfer law, for tasks related to surveying something. Etiquetting of meat. Meat. Bovine identifiable meat. Etiquette Task Transfer Act. I highly doubt that any of you will ever encounter this word in real life again. Yet, there are long lists of interesting long German words. Try to figure out what they mean or put them into people, and sometimes you can laugh a lot. But German is also like any other country in the biggest, any other language in the biggest language. And you can see that, for example, if you use the word yes, ja, and it not only comes down to the specific word, but also, of course, pronunciation and the situation, whatever. Ja. Ja, ja. 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 Completely different meaning. Just to make it more hard for you to learn German. It could be way easier, but we don't want to have it easy. And, as any other language as well, idioms, right? Specifically used phrases and whatever. And we can see that with the German, the English sentence, I don't believe it. Let's follow the qualification levels. A1, Word-to-Word translation. Das glaube ich nicht. Next level, a bit more fancy. Das kann nicht sein. It can't be. Das kann ich mir nicht vorstellen. I can't imagine. Das bezweifle ich. I doubt. Das halte ich für sehr unwahrscheinlich. I think it's highly unrealistic. The highest level, als ob. And that's only true for part of Germany, right? So, German is not really ugly, but definitely a little complicated, more complicated than other languages probably, but you can have a lot of fun with the German language. So therefore I highly doubt that it's ugly in the common sense. It's just strange from time to time, probably, right? Just Google something, try to speak, try to ask fellow students, German students, if you're in doubt of the meaning of a word or whatever. For the Germans, you can poll now. Is the stereotype true from your point of view? Indifferent opinions. Fair enough, different group, yeah, fair enough. What do you think is the most often drinking beverage in Germany? Water, coffee, beer, even wine is drunken more often nowadays, and then beer. We do fancy our potatoes though, because we don't have anything else. Asparagus. It's asparagus season. Has just started. Try it. In a few weeks, because then they're not expensive. German love cars. What do you think? True? Not true? the on paper. There is something like the Verkehrswende on paper, right? But yeah, I also agree, somewhat indifferent. So, on the countryside where I come from, you were either very strange or in the Opel Club. I was strange, because I didn't like Opel cars. I was driving a Volkswagen. Don't tell them. Depends. The German food is terrible. No. Any international already tried sauerkraut? Let's cross-check that against the international students. Saumagen. I can recommend Pfälzer Saumagen. Have you ever tried haggis? Pfälzer Saumagen is essentially the same. Different kind of animals, same. Rheinischer Sauerbraten is actually made of horses. Delicious. I think our food is not in general terrible, but it can be. But this is actually holding true for almost every food everywhere, I think, right? When I was backpacking in India for some weeks after my studies, I was eating a lot of food on the streets. Awesome. Awesome! But some dishes I tried were like, what was that? For me, because I'm not used to. So essentially not the food is terrible, but you probably don't like it. That's fine. I don't like German food at all at some points either, right? Yeah, oh, that's nice. Germans celebrate Christmas in the snow. Educated guess for the German students. What do you think? How often in the last 100 years did we have snow across almost whole Germany on Christmas? That's a bit more than one. 4 years in 100 years. So if you're in the mountain area somewhere, you will probably most likely celebrate Christmas in snow. If you're located in Darmstadt, you can hope for sun, otherwise it's going to rain. We usually have somewhat around 2 days of snow in the winter here in Darmstadt, at least so that everything's covered. But if there's one snowflake, specifically Darmstadt, is not able to drive with cars anymore. Not at all. That's a joke. Let me start with German and then I'll try to translate that. Let me try to translate it directly. 2 snowflakes are meeting, falling down. And one snowflake to the other, where are you heading? I'm heading to the Odenwald area around because it's easy to chill out there. What are you doing? I'm going to Darmstadt, causing chaos. I once had to borrow the car of my grandmother because my car broke. Automatic. All seasons wheels, so the worst combination for ice on the streets. I still had to buy some Christmas presents 2 days before Christmas. So I was heading into the city, parking there. When I went out, it started to snow and it was a bit warmer before and then it was really cold. So a little bit of ice on the streets. So it was really not that easy to go by car. Around the city ring, this street, Rhönring, roughly a kilometer, probably 1.5 with car. 2.5 hours. At some point I left my car, went up to the first car waiting there, was just like, can I push? Can I do something? The transporter before me went into the side. Yes, so it's winter. It's a car. Just go. Nah. I learned driving in a way colder area around. In the winter. It's fun to go with it when it's icy on the streets. I mean, not too fast probably, but you can have a lot of turnarounds and whatever. It's really cool. Anyhow, Germans stop at every red traffic light. That's not a stereotype, when pedestrian traffic lights probably, but real, because otherwise you will probably get flashed and then you have to pay a lot of money and lose your driving license. And even though we probably don't like cars that much anymore, we like our driving license. The epitome of German culture, the Oktoberfest. What do you think? Yep, in Munich, probably, and the area around. I have never been to the Oktoberfest, and I will never ever be there, because that's definitely not my kind of fest. The week before the Oktoberfest starts, there's the so-called Arbeiterwiesen, where all the construction workers are actually still working, but also celebrating a bit. And the tents are already put up, and you can get beer and the food the week before the Oktoberfest starts. That was quite decent, to be honest. The Oktoberfest, not so much. And no, that's not German cultural. Ask someone from Hamburg. You will be like, no. Because they greet each other with moin in the northern part, and moin is already too much. Really not saying that much. Germans wear socks and sandals. That's a quite typical stereotype nowadays. Depends. And unfortunately, from my personal point of view, the younger the people are getting, compared to me nowadays, the more often they actually wear socks and sandals. That's, from my personal point, my mother owns a shop selling clothes, suits, business suits, and whatever. If I see socks and sandals, it's blah. But hey, aesthetic, subjective, right? So, if you want to wear socks and sandals, just do. Probably don't tell that you're German then. German reserve the best seats by the pool. Yes, but we're not the only ones. And the English in Mallorca are even worse. Representative questionnaire in Mallorca, actually, hotel owners and whatsoever, and it really, the reason what? Yes, the Germans are really, really bad with that, but the English are even worse. And some actually said it, and let's just let's talk about the Dutch. So yes, if there's a towel somewhere, it's reserved. Because it's a towel. I don't know where this idea stems from, but yeah, Germans tend to do the same. When we go to the spa, for example, we're doing exactly the same, to be honest. Just reserving the seats, putting the bags there, and then heading to the sauna. Just to have something to sit down if you're back. I don't know. Everything works in Darmstadt, Germany, name it. I think I introduced you to Tukan today. Not really true. And there are some interesting things that were a good idea in the past and are leading out to be pain in the ass nowadays. For example, essentially, if you offer a job as a city or the university or whatsoever, it's public service, right? So therefore, you have to take the cheapest offer, essentially. So, cheapest offer. What happened? Where I live now, Crossroad, directly in front of our house, they opened up the street. One company, cheapest offer, to open up the street. A few days, nothing happened. Another company dropped by, doing something, I think waterline. Putting everything back, vanishing, still the construction's going on. A few weeks later, another company, a third one, dropped by, opening up the street again, doing something with the electricity line. Closing it, leaving the construction as is, vanishing. Again, a few weeks later, the fourth company dropped by, opening up, something with gas. Closing it, going away. And again, a few weeks later, the first company dropped by, finalizing the construction. So essentially a good idea, but in reality it's not really working out in a good way. So no, not everything works in Germany, but at least we usually have an explanation why not. It's also fine. At least this works. Germans are unfriendly. Depends on the Germans, I'd say. They are somewhat direct, that's true. Because it's actually honesty is somewhat a fine thing to be. And being honest means to be direct. So there's not much chit-chat talking around sometimes, but very precise, no, I think you're wrong. Just, for example, Japanese culture, there is saying no is really hard. In Germany, probably no is one of the most loved words at all, right? So it seems to be unfriendly, but it doesn't necessarily has to be unfriendly. It's probably just being polite, even though you don't feel like that, right? And that's getting back to the very first slides. Ask yourself, is it me reacting on this statement in that way, or is it really unfriendly? And if you're not sure, ask someone, ask the person, whatever, right? And Germans know everything better, not the Germans, I know everything better. Compared to what's listed here. Some know everything better. Klugscheißer. Other words from different types, different parts of Germany for Klugscheißer? Someone who knows everything better? Käpsele, im Schwäbischen zum Beispiel. Bist du Käpsele, hä? Das wirst du nie wieder vergessen. And the weather is bad in Germany. I mean, that depends on what you define as bad, right? But yeah, we do have some rainy and windy and chilly days. So essentially it's spring, a few days of really hot summer, fall, which is essentially the same as spring, probably a few days of winter, at least here in Darmstadt. Other areas of Germany, different temperature, different height, whatever, right? No. That's actually the translation from DEPO, the Provide Identification Meat Labeling Monitoring Task Transfer Act. Memorize it by heart. That's it. Any questions or something you want to add? If not, thanks for the attention, and please get in touch with fellow students. Be interested in the local and different cultures. Be reflective. Learn from each other. It can be so funny and so refreshing, actually, to learn something from different cultures. And sometimes you will just inherit it, right? And sometimes, at least, you can, on a reflected way, deny it, but without being impolite or something. And it's really interesting to see how different people are, how different they work, how different they live, how different they cook, and whatever. Be open-minded and talk to each other. And that's probably the most important, the only real important statement in this talk. Be open-minded, talk to each other, ask yourself questions, ask the other ones questions. That's really helpful. There are a few hands raised. Why? She was not dying. So the question is, why was getting beaten up no emergency? Well, it was not a critical emergency. He would have been able to walk to the emergency room. So if you can't walk anymore because too big, too aching too much, for example, hurt too much or whatever, then it's a real emergency. We can call this specific type of doctor. You can call the ambulance. Definitely. Not that costly at all. But if the doctor also joins, if you have a heart attack, for example, or stroke, right, then it's necessary that a doctor actually is directly there to help you in the best way possible. And then you don't have to pay for it. But if you just get beaten up and you have a black eye and a somewhat bloody nose, walk to the emergency room. Come on. You're not from sugar. Another famous German saying. You're not from sugar. Du bist doch nicht aus Zucker. So specifically if it's raining downstairs, outside. It's raining, I don't want to go outside. You're not from sugar. Yes, of course. But I still don't want to go outside if it's rain. All right. Other questions? There was one question. Yeah, later on. Right. So if it's urgent, if it's not too crowded, whatever, they're not allowed to just tell you go away. They will treat you, but then again you have to bring the Krankenversicherungskarte later on as well, right? That was not really seriously meant that you always. I mean, if you have it always with you, no issue. So. Same with, I don't know, your student ID card, for example, public transportation ticket. If you do have a valid public transportation ticket, but you don't have it with you, and you get caught, you still have to pay a little bit extra, but if you can show it within a specific period of time later on, it's reduced from 60 or 80 euros to a few, just something. And just to get around this, first of all, just have your student ID card and a public transportation ticket with you. So. Which one? Yeah. Right. So there are catastrophe warning apps, also weather warning apps and whatever. More or less helpful. For example, I mean Nina, yeah, if I got warned for thunderstorms, actually, that was quite unnecessary. On the other hand, the siren warning, because sirens are tested in Germany on regular basis, so don't be afraid when, I think the first Monday or Wednesday every month, something like that, Sirenentest. In Darmstadt? I think so also. The first Wednesday every month in Darmstadt or something. Probably Monday, I don't know. As a German, I'm so used to it, I don't hear the sirens anymore. But don't be disturbed too much. It might just be an exercise, right? Also, every quarter year, the first Wednesday. To just surprise you a bit more. And the Nina Warn-App, for example, tells you in advance, that's just an example. That's just a probe of the sirens. That's really helpful for the first time you encounter the same. If not, it's like, bombs, duck and cover. Not yet. Right, and there's also a German-wide test and whatever. There are so many interesting, but thanks for the addition. Sure, there are several things. Ask the Students' Council, fellow students, whatsoever, and they are used to living in Germany, right? They can tell you directly what's really helpful, useful, required probably, or what's probably completely unnecessary but funny to have, or whatsoever, right? As I don't own my own computer, for example, and I tend to forget my mobile because I'm fucking old, it wouldn't help for me anyways. So it's also a personal thing, right? But hey. Yes. If you're interested in building up an ad hoc network in case of an emergency, the group of Matthias Hollig, Simo, he's also, I think, the major PI of Emergent City. That's a research project. And they built various ideas of creating ad hoc mobile networks with the given mobile stations by hacking them in case of an emergency and something. So he's actually dealing with network security in mobile networks, right? They developed several interesting things, how to deal with bigger emergencies and whatsoever, and they created some apps as well, they always search for students for master thesis in the area and whatever. At the moment they're quite crowded, I think, but in general, really interesting topics, definitely. Is it a German thing? What? Digger? Depends, Digger. It depends on the age as well. Let's be honest, German is also, of course, developing quite fast sometimes. So when I was younger, this word didn't exist as something used on regular basis. I do have some student helpers for my mentoring systems in the years, stemming from the northern part, 15 years younger than me, 20 probably, I don't know. Yeah, they're using that almost every sentence they use, right? It's like, you have to do this exercise, Digger. But the real young nowadays probably tell you something different, I don't know. It's just developing, and yeah, we use it, whatever. What did we use? Alter. Alter was quite common when I was a bit younger. Then Digger, then I don't know. Fair, I see that. Yet it's actually written D-I-G-G-A, Digger. At least in Berlin and Hamburg. I highly doubt that the Bavarians know this phrase at all. We do! Awesome. Okay, anything else? If not, have a nice day. Unfortunately, I'm not able to attend the pub tour tonight because I'm somewhat ill, even though they introduced a smoker pub tour for me, personally. We can repeat that at some point, right? I'm in the pubs here in the inner city of Darmstadt the whole week through anyways. Have fun. Enjoy your time. Enjoy tomorrow. I will be at home, working from home. Next week I'm on holidays, so if you want to see me the week after, stay calm. It's going to be fine. Believe me. Believe me. I'm not lying. I know everything better. Have a nice day. See ya. Bye. Yeah.
Before everyone leaves this room, thank you very much. First off, by chat, the next stream, I think maybe tomorrow at 10 a.m.